They get high and they do an autopsy.
They get high. They all are making out with each other. And I'm like,
it's so weird.
What is happening right now?
It's so weird and so like sexual for no reason.
What is happening? I was so thrown off. That's when I texted Jess. I was like, oh, it gets weird. I was like, dude, yeah.
So many red flags there.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to perform an autopsy?
Ever wanted to know how accurate your favorite crime drama is?
If you're brave enough,
join us inside the morgue.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Inside the Morgue. We're your favorite pathology duo and spooky girls, Jess and Alice.
I love that.
This week, we watched a movie back from 2008, and we watched Pathology.
Don't say 2008 like it was like that long ago, even though it was.
That was 10 years ago.
Don't make me feel older than I am.
This movie starred Milo Ventimiglia, Michael Weston, Alyssa Milano, Lauren Lee Smith, and Johnny Whitworth. So it's all about this brilliant pathologist, Dr. Ted Gray, and he joins a hospital department only to discover that his colleagues are involved in a very twisted game of murder. Led by charismatic Dr. Gallo, they commit, quote, perfect murders and challenge each other to solve the crimes. Ted becomes entangled in this disturbing world, and he finds it increasingly difficult to escape. So, let's get into it.
Yes. But before we get into it, one half of us is coming at you from Young Junk Studio, right here in Philadelphia, PA. Hey, Dylan, if people want to record here, how can they do that?
Not too hard to do. All you got to do is email me, dylan@youngjunk.com, and you can let me know what you're trying to do in the world of podcasting, and we'll help you do it.
You can watch fun movies. Quote, fun movies. Talk about them. Or something else. It just so happens the two podcasts that I do involve talking about movies quite often. So the intro of this movie shows a camera recording faces of corpses that are being, like, the mouths are being moved by medical residents to say, I think they were acting out a scene from When Harry Met Sally. The I'll have what she's having scene. But just, yeah, red flag right off the bat.
Big red flag.
I was, like, immediately disturbed. I was like, oh.
It was very disrespectful, first off.
And they're recording it. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Just no care for the decedent.
Yeah.
Which I guess really explains this group as a whole.
Yeah, so these are the not good guys in the movies, in case you couldn't tell. And we then meet our protagonist, Ted, who is a doctor, pathologist, who's about to go do his residency at this prestigious hospital. He's leaving his lovely fiancée, Alyssa Milano, who plays Gwen. She is currently in law school. She has a lot of work going on, but when she's finished up with her work, she's going to move to, I thought it was New York, but maybe it was Philly. We'll talk about it later. I might have not been paying attention to that. But anyway, she's going to come live with him in the big, nice apartment that they have, and it's going to be perfect, and nothing is going to go wrong, you think. So when he gets to the program, he's shown around the hospital, or no, it's like the county morgue. They specifically say it's the county morgue. And a fellow resident, Dr. Ben Stravinsky, is giving him the ins and outs of the place. So the first thing I noticed is we see a lot of bodies being wheeled around in clear body bags, which we've talked about before. I've never seen a clear body bag. And I don't know what purpose they could possibly serve. And it reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one.
Classic.
Classic.
What a classic scene.
See Pina in the body bag. All the time whenever Nancy's having her nightmares.
I know, yeah. I've been in this field for a little bit. I've never seen a clear body bag. I've seen blue ones, black ones, orange ones. We have white ones that we use like on the daily.
There's some hospital body bags that are like just not great.
They're like,
but they're not clear.
They're clear. They're awful quality and they're like paper thin because hospitals aren't spending their resources on body bags.
Right.
But yeah, clear body bags are just not the way to go. But it gives you that like effect as the viewer of like, oh my God, there's a dead body.
There's a dead body and like they're all like covered in blood. when there's like it was just really gory right off the bat, which I think was definitely the effect of the movie, was like the shock value of like, we're in the morgue, there's bodies. So Dr. Stravinsky says that the holidays are coming up so that it will start to get a little busier, which I thought was an interesting thing to add because we do get busy seasons in the morgue. I recently got asked about this, and the holidays can be a busier time depending on where you're at, for a few different reasons.
I get asked this all the time.
Yeah, right? Like there's certain waves, and like even like funeral homes, when they come pick people up, will like notice, be like, it's not even the busy season yet, but it seems to be like picking up. And I'm like, I know. And it's just that like the fact that we're all aware of like,
like I remember like maybe a week or two ago there was like nothing happening, and then like all of a sudden like last week and this week are like crazy busy, and like things are like, we're constantly getting more calls and scenes to go to.
Yeah.
Which is, it's crazy just how those peaks
it comes
and
in
lulls
waves.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah, it always comes in waves. So then we cut to a few autopsy scenes, just like general shots of morgue work. And we see Ted using clippers to cut ribs, which
Green flag.
we love to see. Yeah, we'll give a green flag because this is what our morgue does. But it's not necessarily that every morgue does this. We know some morgues also use bone saws, we've heard, and we've talked to other people that say they've done that. I've never done that for ribs. I think maybe in grad school when I was a teaching assistant, that's what they used. But no.
I did it when I was at the whole body donation center.
Mhm.
We used the bone saw to cut through the ribs. But we didn't do that for like it wasn't every single body being donated. We like had to cut their ribs for whatever reason.
Right.
So it wasn't like an all the time thing, but we did it when we had to.
Yeah. Interesting. And I think like the benefit of using a bone saw is that the ribs, they're not as like jagged.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not as risk of like catching yourself on that, which we see in the movie of Autopsy of Jane Doe. He cuts himself on a rib because he used clippers. But if you cut along the ribs with the clippers, like depending on the person's age and their bone density, if you cut a little more towards the midline, it's less calcified and it's more cartilage. So it's a little smoother. That's what Jess and I do. We'll try to cut a little narrower.
And even for like the younger decedents that we get, like we'll just use our scalpel blade
sometimes
and just
you get a
cut
smooth
through
line.
that because it's easier than using the rib cutters, which are just bigger and unnecessary kind of.
And that's just a preference for us because even though you get like a narrow space kind of to work within, you don't have the risk of catching yourself as much. But like some people like to go wider with it, and then they have a little more jagged edges, but then you have more room to maneuver.
Yeah.
But it's a preference thing. Jess and I prefer to cut a little narrow. The more you know. So we also see clips of Ted studying, and there is a part where he goes to a lecture, like a forensics lecture, and they're looking at body or like not crime scene photos, autopsy photos from inside the morgue. Get it? I said the name of the podcast.
Hey!
I said the name of the podcast. And these pics look real. I specifically remember there was a picture of a face from a decomposing body, and it looked real.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was pretty good.
It was pretty legit. And even some pictures of the wounds, like they showed, it looked like hammer wounds on the back of somebody's head, like after like they had shaved away the hair. And I was like wondering, I was like, did they use real like textbook images for these slideshows? Because there's another scene where Ted is reading a textbook over breakfast, and it looks like a Spitz and Fisher.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
He was just like casually like eating his breakfast and looking at this like forensics textbook, and I'm like, that's exactly what somebody who is studying forensics and just loves forensics would do.
Yeah. We each have a copy of a Spitz and Fisher medical legal death investigation textbook, as I think everybody in our office does.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just thought that was neat to see in the movie because I was watching it and I was like, I'm pretty sure he's reading a textbook that I own, which is pretty
so cool to see.
Pretty good attention to detail. So I guess I'll give a green flag there. So I get, what do I have? I have 2 green flags so far, and red flag
and
for
one red flag.
Red flag for bad people being
just wait. We'll get more red flags.
Oh, there's gonna be plenty of red flags.
Just you wait.
Just wait. So then there's also a scene in the morgue. Oh, hey, here's another red flag. When a body starts just convulsing, not like a little twitch, like it's being electrocuted, convulsing.
Full on having a spasm.
Yes. And we see Ted like everybody else like jumps back, and Ted comes over and just slices the back of the neck with a scalpel, and it stops moving. And the doctor in charge says that it was a spasm of the parietal tract. And this tract is responsible for transmitting signals from the brain to the muscles for voluntary movement. So we're going to give a red flag. I've never seen this.
Never.
And I've never seen like any twitching or like flinching to this degree. Sometimes you move people and like gases will move in a certain way and they'll make a noise.
Yeah.
I've talked about that before.
I also feel like maybe something like this would happen like closer to like that moment of initial death.
Yes.
Not
like
like
the perimortem
once they
stage.
get to the morgue.
Yeah. But hey, if we're wrong and you work in a morgue and you've seen something as crazy as this, I want to
Let
know
me
all
know.
about it. And
I want to
you
know
should
all about
send
your
us
horror
a
stories.
DM. Send us a DM or comment. I want to know. So, yeah, the twitching or tensing of muscles can occur when rigor mortis is just starting to set in, but this just seemed a little excessive to me. And there is something called a cadaveric spasm, but it's not exactly what it sounds like. It's a rare phenomenon where the deceased person's muscles become stiff and rigid immediately after death, not the 6 to 8 hours that we'll typically see with rigor. So yeah, often it's in the position that they were in the moment of death. And unlike rigor, this is which is a gradual stiffening, as we've said before. Cadaveric spasm is believed to be an antemortem, which is before death phenomenon that can be triggered by intense emotional or physical activity before death, which makes sense because then like you're running out of ATP faster, which is what causes your muscles to stiffen. Is when you run out of ATP, your muscles just lock up.
Mm-hmm. So Dr. Ted Gray, our main guy here, he graduated at the top of his class from Harvard Med School, and he joined this prestigious pathology residency program. So there's like this rivalry that develops between a group of interns and Teddy. After one day of exams, the group invites Ted out to drinks.
They call him like Ted or Teddy depending on their mood.
Yeah.
So we call him that. In our notes, I had him as either.
We'll be switching back and forth between the two.
No, it's Milo Ventimiglia.
Milo.
What Jesse from Gilmore Girls. Love you. Or the guy from Heroes whose name I forget, but I used to love that show.
So while they're out for drinks, Dr. Gallo, who is the leader kind of this group, he asks everyone if they could kill anyone and get away with it, who would they kill? Ted responds that his answer would be, if you could kill anyone, that's who you kill. Anyone. Mm-hmm. The next night, Jake Gallo invites Ted out for drinks, but it's just the two of them this time. Ted gets way too drunk, and Jake takes him to a house where there's a man standing guard, like a bodyguard kind of, asking for money for them to get in. Jake gifts him with a bottle of liquor and cash, and he lets them in. Ted quickly becomes disoriented and nauseous, and he blacks out. The next day at work, Ted is extremely hungover.
He's like chugging water. There's this
and that's like the one scene you see.
And it's like a full minute of this movie is this man chugging water. Also, this movie's only an hour. The girls in
2008 were going wild for this.
Yeah.
So the first exam of the day, their first case, it's revealed to be that man from the night before who was guarding the door. He sustained stab wounds, and it looks like he had been beaten. There was also, I think, a bullet in his head.
Yes, there was. I lost track of it. There was a lot going on with him.
Yeah, there was like too many things going on with this body.
Yeah.
So Ted said that he...
Sorry. No, sorry. The lead doctor also says, like, this guy had a record. He was a felon. Like, he had been wanted for
he was
murder.
like listing off all of these things.
He was, he doesn't seem to be...
They were like, oh, maybe it's gang related.
Yeah, he didn't seem to be a stand-up guy, I think they were saying, which is important for the plot.
So Ted said that he also believes that he was poisoned beforehand, and so he requests to do a Chem 7 test. So Ted had like this whole theory of like what happens, and that's why he was like, oh, I think he was poisoned because of all of this. It doesn't add up because the stab wounds, it doesn't look like there's hemorrhaging. Same with like the gunshot, like that came last. There wasn't any hemorrhaging in that either.
And he's like going toe for toe with Dr. Jake Gallo because he's looking at Gallo.
They're like going back
I
and
think
forth.
the person injected him with potassium cyanide and he was dead before this happened. And then Jake's like, well, why would you think that? Do you see any needle injection marks? And they're like going back and forth. And then
he's like, what if they stabbed him here, though? You wouldn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can tell Jake knows.
He knows what's up.
Do you think anybody else in that room picked up on like, why are they being real weird about this?
They're
like,
probably just like, I'm over these guys. Let's move on.
Can you imagine just as like a secondary character in this movie or a tertiary character even? It's just like, I'm just here doing my fellowship and I'm so
just want to
sick
finish
of these
fellowship.
two guys. Just kiss already.
So Ted confronts Jake privately, and Jake does admit to killing him and says that if he tells anyone, he could frame Ted for it because Ted was there that night and he has like all this DNA evidence going back to him.
He's like, I planted DNA evidence at the scene. Ted also just threw up everywhere all over the scene. Not that you can like tie that back, but
he also says that he knows Ted won't tell because that would ruin the game. Ted ultimately finds out how Jake killed the guy. So he originally thought it was potassium cyanide, but discovered it was actually nitric acid that was put into the liquor bottle that he had gifted the guy. And hypoosmolar red blood cells indicate that the nitric acid concentration of electrolytes, proteins, and nutrients in the blood is lower than normal. So nitric acid ultimately can contribute to osmolality.
Yeah.
If I said that right. So a green flag, potentially.
I think, yeah, I would give it a green flag because it looks like he looked at a cellular level and he was looking for different.
He was looking at the microscope. To see like all the histo.
But he was
sorry.
No. I was just saying he was looking for a clue of potassium cyanide, but he ended up finding the clue for nitric acid instead.
So the ragged stippling of red blood cells would have been potassium cyanide or basophilic stippling, which is a microscopic finding characterized by the presence of small dark blue granules within red blood cells seen in histo. And the granules are actually ribosomes and not directly linked to potassium cyanide, but heavy metal poisoning, including lead, can lead to the same appearance in red blood cells.
So I'll give like a pinkish flag for that. It's not quite
green.
red, but it's not directly linked. He was like so confident. He's like, ragged stippling of red blood cells would have been potassium cyanide. And it's like, or it could have been lead.
They're just saying things to sound smart.
I mean, I had to pause several times because they say it so fast. And I'm just like, what did you say? Like, are you right or are you wrong? I need to pay attention. So Ted also noted at the first autopsy, and I say first autopsy because these people do shady autopsies on the side, that there was a contra-coup contusion in the head, which was cool because, well, not cool for the guy, but cool
for us.
Fun facts that I can tell you about what a contra-coup brain injury is. It's a type of traumatic brain injury where the brain strike is opposite side of the skull from the initial impact, causing damage on the opposite side. So like
I
the brain
just explained this to Dom the other day, and he was like, "You're just making things up." And
no,
I'm like,
there's a
I'm
coup
smart.
contusion, which is right under the point of impact, and then the contra-coup contusion is from the brain shifting in the skull after being hit on one side and hitting the other side of the skull. So say you get like bonked on the right side, and then like there's damage on the left side. It's like, oh, there was a strike here, and it shifted the brain to the left side.
It was a big bonk.
There's a big bonk.
Big bonk, cause of death.
Medical term, bonk. So I don't know why. I also just like saying contra-coup. I don't know why.
It's so much fun. That was probably one of my favorite terms.
Yeah.
In grad school to just say.
Yeah. I still love to say it when any chance I get.
Coup, contra-coup.
Yeah. So I also just wanted to say all of the organs look real in the autopsy scenes. Like,
do you know why they look real?
Why do they look real, Jess?
Because they're cow and pig organs.
That is fascinating. There was one scene where Gallo, Dr. Jake Gallo, is being really intense with Ted on the other side of the morgue, and he's like removing a brain, and he's like holding it in his hand, and it literally kind of looks like my candle with like a little bit more paint on it. He's like, he's like palming it.
But it looked a lot better than most of the other brains that we've seen in like past shows.
Yes, I do love my candle.
And I think Grey's Anatomy does the same. Like they use like cow and pig organs too to make it look more realistic.
Did we ever find out if Body of Proof did that? Because I was amazed by some of their organs. I was amazed by one brain they were looking at in particular. And I'm like,
I
who
would
either
imagine
created
so.
this brain or where did they find this? Because this is crazy, really. Like, the texture looked right, which is really hard to do.
The texture, the size, like the shape of it.
Yeah. So there is one part where Jake Gallo, Jake Gallo also just bullies Stravinsky, the doctor who showed Ted around at the beginning. He bare hands, no glove, a liver and throws it at the back of this dude's head. So that was like an actual like pig or cow liver that he's just barehanding.
I assume so.
That's nasty. And they hit the other dude in the back of the head. That's crazy.
I would have been so mad.
I would have been. And he does.
Also,
this
I would
wasn't
never
like.
want to touch an organ with my bare hands.
Can you? That is. Okay.
They have no respect for PPE.
They have no respect for PPE. They have no respect for the dead. They're just throwing
No.
organs like it's a freaking food fight.
Same with the brain that he had. He just like threw it into the scale.
Yeah. No.
Not us.
Not us. No. Like he did. Like in the beginning, when the group is being disrespectful to the bodies, making their mouths move, there's nobody else around, and so they're being shitty in private. This is him being shitty in front of not only his peers,
His entire
but like
class.
the boss, and nobody calls him on it.
Literally nobody cares. Nobody ever says anything.
No
to this
accountability. A white man? No.
group. Oh.
Typical. I will use any excuse to quote
The
Noodle.
lack of diversity in this 2008 movie.
Yeah, that too. So eventually, now that he didn't tell on them, and he was like into trying to figure out Jake's intense crime, the group invites Ted to join. So they entertain themselves with a secret after-hours game at the morgue of who can commit the most perfect undetectable murder. So they're basically trying to stump themselves or stump each other with how they kill people. And so like basically to be initiated into the group, Ted has to kill someone. And
Yeah, he has to play the game.
yeah, when it's like his turn, one of the girls in the group, Juliet, who's kind of dating Jake, they have a weird situationship that it's very toxic, very, very toxic. We'll get into it. She like gives him a piece of paper and was like, this is a really interesting case, and it has like a room number on it. And he goes to that hospital room number and talks to the doctor there, and they find out that the patient there is a man who shot and killed his young son and wife execution style, and then tried to shoot himself in the stomach and I forget where else, but didn't
Somewhere
die.
else. Yeah.
And so they have to keep him alive, and the doctor and the nurse are both very like, this guy sucks. He's probably gonna die soon. Like, whatever.
Like
And-
straight to this guy too.
The
They're not
right
trying to hide their
to
feelings.
Ted. Like they don't know who Ted just walks in and they're like, yeah, this guy sucks. Like, and you don't know who this man is. And he is wearing scrubs, so it's like, oh, he must work here.
They're like, oh man,
I've
the guy
gotten
in scrubs.
I've gone to a hospital in scrubs during work hours to like either pick up or drop off lab specimen, and I've been confused for a worker in the hospital, and I get so stressed.
They're like, can you give me directions to
I'm like,
this
I
wing?
literally-
And I was like, I don't work here.
There was literally a time when a woman was asking a doctor for directions, and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm on my way to like surgery or something, but this young woman here can help you, and pointed at me, and I'm like, I cannot. Don't
ask me.
I don't work here. And like the doctor laughed
Don't
like I was
volunteer me for
joking. I was like, I'm
things.
not joking. I don't work here. I can't help you. No.
And
I
I like,
literally-
that's what they all say.
I was like, no, I'm so sorry. I really don't work here. But the like help desk is like, the ladies at the desk over there might be able to help you. I just know, I literally only know where the lab is. Like, I'm on my way to the lab.
And sometimes I barely know where that is.
I literally, I was like, oh no. Yeah. So he just walks in, they tell him this whole thing. So he decides that'll be his first kill. And I think he injects, is it morphine or something in his,
Something.
he gets a syringe
In his ear.
to hide the needle mark. And that's his first kill.
Which I guess is a really clever spot because nobody would think to look there.
Well, now I'm going to start. I'm going to look in
Every
people's ears.
every case we get. Did you
Alice,
look at the ears?
stop it. No. Like looking in the
She
ears.
becomes obsessed. That's just her thing.
It's just her thing. She just does that. Let her do it. So yeah, Ted is fully in, and the scene where when they're autopsying his first kill, they start the autopsy and so they do their secret meetings in the basement morgue that nobody uses anymore. Apparently, they call it the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
So they go down there. It's obviously sketchily lit, like every spooky
There's
morgue scene.
2 lights.
I will say their actual morgue that they do use every day, fantastic
It's
lighting,
nice.
fantastic morgue. It looks great.
It's a great setup.
It's a great setup. They have all the tools that we have. They have all the setup, all the sinks, the scales, everything that we have, all the hoses. It was great. Fantastic. Green flag.
They did their research.
They did. But they start doing this autopsy. And this is when I texted Jess, because at first I texted her and was like, I don't know if I'm into this
Go
movie.
back and find these texts.
And I literally just texted her in all caps. It gets weird because they start cutting this autopsy start doing this autopsy, this rogue autopsy, by the way. Has this man been seen officially as a case, or are they sneaking him in the morgue?
They bring this man in
Because the first guy that Jake
There's no
killed,
security anywhere.
first guy that Jake killed was brought in as an actual case, but then they autopsied him privately again later. I was very confused
Who
by
was
it.
in charge of this group? 'Cause they're
no
not
one.
doing a great job
No
of
one.
keeping track of their bodies.
No one. There's no rules. But anyway, they start doing the autopsy. Somebody pulls out a meth pipe. And they all Ted, I'm assuming just never done this kind of before, just starts smoking meth around his body.
They get high and they do an autopsy.
They
That's
get
fun.
high. They all are making out with each other. And I'm like,
It's so weird.
what is happening right now?
It's so weird and so sexual for no reason.
What is happening? I was so thrown off. That's when I texted Jess. I was like, oh, it gets
literally-
weird. I was like, dude, yeah.
So many red flags there.
So Ted obviously finds himself drawn to this disturbing game, and he soon realizes that getting out is way more difficult than getting in. But he's enjoying playing this game. They see flashes of we just see a whole montage of them killing people, and Ted's really good at guessing how they did it, and he's just getting off of the thrill. And he thinks that they're only killing bad people.
Mm.
He's led to believe that because the person they gave him to kill was a bad guy, quote unquote bad guy. And I mean, clearly from the story we heard, he does seem like a bad guy. But I'm saying that it's not their place to play God.
Same with the very first guy.
The first guy.
He was led to believe that he was also bad.
Exactly. So he's justifying it by saying they're basically vigilantes. And eventually, the group's leader, Jake Gallo, realizes that Ted is sleeping with Juliet, one of the women in the group who gave him the first body to kill. Or
Even
first
though
person to kill.
Ted has a fiance
Ted has a fiance, everybody.
and doesn't remember her.
I'm sorry. Not that looks matter. It shouldn't matter. Ted's fiance is Alyssa Milano.
Yeah. Ugh, Milo,
Men.
what are you doing?
Men.
A white man.
A white man cheating on Alyssa Milano. But I will say Juliet is also attractive. But I'm just like, you are engaged to Alyssa Milano?
You have no values, my dude.
Yeah. So they're sleeping together. They start sleeping together because Juliet recruits Ted to help kill her father, who she claims is a pedophile who raped her as a little girl. So Ted and Juliet go to this guy's house. They go in, they get him high, they bring him they're like, oh yeah, we're doctors now. She's talking to him like she is her daughter or his daughter, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a doctor now, I'm a general practitioner, I got medical marijuana, I can prescribe it to you whenever you want. So they get high all together, and Ted convinces them to do whippets as a group, but instead of an aerosol can, they give him liquid nitrogen, and he just inhales it and it freezes his lungs. So the next day, the group is gathered around this body trying to guess how Juliet killed this man. They also don't know that Ted helped her, because I guess that's against the rules. Killing people isn't, but helping people kill people is. But they're bemused by how his lungs seem to be absolutely pulverized and like jello, they say, but the rest of his lungs or organs are perfect. And so then we see a flashback that after this man inhaled this and died, Juliet is beating him with some kind of metal contraption, which we're assumed to believe after his lungs had been frozen, just completely broke them apart. Have I ever seen this? No. Do I know if this would happen? I have no idea. I can assume it wouldn't be good to inhale liquid nitrogen. Don't do it.
But wouldn't there be rib fractures and like bruising?
Right? Well, I don't know about bruising because his heart wasn't pumping, but like she was going to town beating him. Like there would be broken ribs. But they were like, no, there's no wounds at all. Like just the lungs are crazy pulverized. Yeah. It's iffy.
This is where the movie starts to downhill a little bit.
Not the smoking meth over a body. That's
where it started. It's continuing.
The no rib fractures is what really tipped it.
It really gets me.
Are we? You know what? I'm gonna be a little crazy. I'm gonna give a red flag for meth during an autopsy. Wait, was it meth or was it crack? Was it a crack pipe?
Crack pipe, yeah.
It was they were smoking something out of a pipe.
Something.
That they shouldn't have been smoking.
So Ted finds out from Jake that Juliet lied about this man being her father, and he realizes that what initially seemed like vigilante killings are actually in reality, they're just killing people kind of for sport. And
Ted is like, all right, this is where I draw
He's like, this is where I draw the line. I can't do it anymore.
He literally slept with Juliet in front of this dead body after they killed her, and he's like, no, this is where I draw the line. But I mean, to be fair, he was justifying it that they were killing a pedophile.
Even like that, I don't think I could justify anything.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. It makes me really happy that you're one of my best friends. You don't think killing.
I wouldn't kill people.
You wouldn't kill people. You wouldn't play God. It's so comforting. I'm so happy. It would have been really upsetting if you were like, you know what, they have a point.
At the end of this movie, I come to like a revelation, you know?
You know what, actually?
So after Jake goes crazy and brutally kills 3 women. And I think these are women that we've kind of seen before back in where the first guy was killed and he brought Ted to the house.
Yeah.
These other women were kind of there and like they were like sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
So he kills these 3 women in the morgue.
Like brutally. Not before he brings them to the morgue. There's like blood everywhere.
Yeah. He brought them to the morgue and then he killed them all there.
Yeah.
So Ted tries to help him clean up and then decides that he has to leave this game one way or another. Ted's fiancée, Gwen, had arrived to stay with him at his apartment. Gallo is very angered by Juliet's infidelity, and he kills her for the next game. However, just as they're about to do the autopsy on Juliet, in the meantime, he's like plotting Ted's death.
Oh yeah, Ted's not there. Ted isn't in the room for this.
Ted isn't at this one.
Ted has like stepped away. He's trying to get out of it. Yeah.
So Gallo realizes that the gas was left on in this room, and so Ted had triggered the gas to kill everybody there, and this results in a massive explosion because the one dude lights up the crack pipe, and everyone is caught in the explosion there. And Gallo realizes that it's happening like as it's happening, but he somehow survives and walks away. But everybody else dies.
Yeah.
And we see Ted is like walking away
casually walking down the hallway in the explosion, like something out of a Mission Impossible movie. And
go watch Cult Pop.
Go watch Cult Pop. I'm obsessed with Mission Impossible now. And yeah, but he like, I just love that Ted left the gas on because he's like, oh yeah, they're gonna light.
I know they're gonna smoke.
They're gonna light up that crystal meth pipe right before they start. That's their thing. That's their thing. And also, like, he goes home that night, sleeps, and then goes back to work the next day and acts like shocked. Like, oh my God, what happened? And the main doctor in charge is like, oh my God, 4 people died in an explosion. He goes, wait, 4 people died? It should have been 5. And that's when he realizes Gallo got away.
And then he, like, books it back home.
Yeah. He's trying to call Gwen. Gwen's at home by herself. Right. Did you want to finish this slide? Because the other one was really short.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we know Gallo managed to get away. And Ted is booking it back home because he knows that Gallo is now going to try to go after Gwen.
Yeah.
And Gallo's like still trying to commit the perfect murder. He's still playing the game because he's a psycho.
He's just unhinged at this point.
So
he was just lit on fire, and he's still trying to commit the perfect
burns
murder.
and everything. So Gallo does end up killing Gwen. He knocked her out with ether and then slipped nitroglycerin under her tongue. Ted had found that out later on, but Ted had gone home and like found his wife laying in bed, and there was like pictures all over of every person that they killed.
Mm-hmm. Is that what those were? Oh my god. Because she had been, we saw like when Gallo arrived at the apartment, she had been looking at photos of her and Ted, so I didn't even clock the pictures.
Mm-hmm. I think they were all pictures that they had killed. Oh
my god. So Gallo went to CVS and printed photos before going to commit the perfect murder.
But Ted, who is also very unhinged at this point, his fiance is brought in, and like the leader of the residency program is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss." And Ted's like, "I'm doing her autopsy." And he's like, "I don't really think that's a good idea." But Ted's like, "No, I need to do it." He's
like, I got permission from her parents to do it. He's like, I don't want anyone to talk to her but me.
I don't think you should do it.
This is the definition of conflict of interest, sir.
So major red flag for Ted here, because this just isn't allowed at all.
No.
But he completes her autopsy. He's finishing up his autopsy report on his murdered fiance. And then all of a sudden, Ted is knocked out by Gallo, who showed up in the morgue as he was like finishing it.
Yeah.
And then they're forced to like trade verbal conflicts with each other. They're like trying to like go at each other.
He wakes up and he's like zip tied.
He's like handcuffed in the sink.
He's like in the sink. I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, we have a sink like that. It would be very hard to get out of if you're like zip tied. It's a very
he knocked Gwen out with the ether and then slipped nitroglycerin under her tongue, and that took approximately 7 minutes to kill her. And during that time, Gallo told Gwen exactly what type of person that his fiance was. But Ted, in turn, he does the same thing. He dissecting him for the 7 minutes there while he's talking to him.
He can't move. There's some kind of paralytic that he also injects, and that's also injected in Gwen. I forgot to write down. He like injects a paralytic in her brachial.
Yeah. So it takes 7 minutes for that to like fully go into your body. And they're there like dissecting him in that 7-minute period. And it's like that it's taking him to die with the assistance of Stravinsky.
They're dissecting him. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's brutal. What a way to go, because you're awake and like you can hear everything and feel everything.
The last shot is like they reflect all the skin back. This guy's still awake. His eyes are open. And then it's the first clip of the clippers, and you see his eyes go wide, and then it's the movie roll credits. And I was like, oh, God.
But just a little bit about nitroglycerin before we wrap up with the end of the movie. So nitroglycerin is a vasodilatory drug used primarily to provide relief for
angina.
What?
Oh, no. It's like angina.
Anginal chest pain, and it works by relaxing the blood vessels and increasing the supply of blood and oxygen to the heart while reducing its workload. It's rare to OD on, but it is possible.
Yeah, and that, oh my God, this movie was just all over the place. But the autopsy scenes
were really good.
Pretty solid. Autopsy scenes and the organs, I would give a solid 8 out of 10.
especially in the beginning when like the class is all together in the morgue and like they're each working on a body,
Mm.
like each doing the autopsy, like that scene was really good with how the setup is and how everybody's working.
Yeah. A lot of sex on autopsy tables. That would
I'm
next to
just grossed out by thinking
I'm
of that.
just- oh my god, I don't know. And then there's one part. Sorry, I don't need to keep talking about the weird stuff, but yes, I do. Ted is cheating with Juliet in the morgue, in the actual morgue, not the spooky secret dungeon one. And he takes a scalpel and gives it to her, and she cuts her tongue with it. And then they
Ew.
start making out. And I'm like, ow.
They're all just psychos.
Yeah. And then there's another scene where she is sleeping with Gallo in the autopsy suite, and she gets needles, but they look like acupuncture needles, not like needles that we'd use
Yeah.
during autopsies, and is like piercing him with them during.
It was just so weird.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
But also, let's talk about the fact that when Ted was drawing vitreous on his dead fiance during her autopsy, he stuck the needle through her closed eyelid to get the vitreous.
17 red flags. All of them. 'Cause what the hell was that? That was the only thing I could think of was like, did they not want to show a needle going into an eye? But they've shown so
They showed
much
everything
more
else.
awful stuff. But that's where they
The
draw the
eyes
line.
where they draw it. It's too vivid
it's
for
like-
the audience.
Closed eye, straight in.
Yeah.
You do it from the side of an open eye. Like, no.
Also, her stitches, like when he was suturing her up and doing like finishing up the Y, they looked really bad. They were like baseball stitches, and it was so red. It was like a whole like red highlighter mark across the Y.
I think a lot of that happens in a lot of movies because if you don't know, you'd think that's what they look like because you're used to seeing stitches on living people where like they'll get inflamed after because that's like an open wound that was stitched up again, which is more wound. And like, so it's going to have inflammation. It'll get red around it because your heart's still beating. That doesn't happen on dead people.
But like our sutures are so clean and like perfect.
Yeah. I wonder if people saw that in a movie, if they'd be like, that's not real, there's no blood. And like, or something like that. Because, I mean, there are blood in autopsies, but there's not like inflammation of the area that you cut, which is kind of what they showed in this scene. But yeah, so red flag for needle through the eyelid, which for some reason like grosses me out more.
I know.
Like, yeah. And let's just also talk about the fact that he did his fiance's autopsy and they just let him. Unsupervised. Nobody was in there with him.
Nobody else was there either.
No one was in that room with him. Oh, yeah. No techs. No techs or assistants.
I know they're like in residency, but they're doing autopsies and there should be pathologist assistants there.
There should be. Yeah. And we said there were some good parts of this, and in order to prepare for their roles, several cast members watched a number of real autopsies. And
it's just really cool.
Yeah. Jess mentioned earlier that a lot of the organs that we see that looked so real is because they were real organs. They just weren't real human organs. They were from pigs and cows. And the city was identified as Philadelphia in an earlier draft of the script. I don't know why. I was convinced it was New York.
I really thought it was New York too. And I don't know if they ever actually specified like what city he was going to.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to that because I was just so drawn in on the fact that they're murdering people.
I mean, that's the main draw of the movie. It's the plot of this movie. And Milo Ventimiglia stated that he spent a lot of time at coroner's offices in preparation for the role, including having to watch 19 autopsies. Quote, I saw a couple hundred dead bodies. I mean, anything from a 5-month-old baby to an 88-year-old who was stabbed with a screwdriver.
Oh, that's a brutal one.
Damn. And yeah, we mentioned that we really liked that the hedge clippers and cutters were used because that's typically what we use, which I always think is fun. All right, I have to round up the flags because I forgot. Okay, what did we? Red flag.
17 red flags.
17 red flags for the eye. Now, red flag for the abuse of corpses in the beginning.
Red flag for the clear body bags.
Clear body bags. But we gave a green flag for the realistic textbook that he was reading. Red
green flag for the clippers.
Red flag. Okay, so I just realized I was counting flags on the
2 and
hand.
2.
No, I have 3 and 1.
Okay.
Here's me. I have 3 red flags because the twitching was a bad thing.
Oh yeah, I was getting to that one next.
Okay. Oh wait, what was your second green flag then?
My green flag was the clippers.
Oh, clippers, yeah. Okay, so yeah, 3 and 2. Okay.
And then there was another green flag for the nitric acid.
Okay.
I guess a green flag for also the organs for looking pretty good.
Organs. Oh wait, organs. Okay. Green flags are in the lead right now.
Which I'm surprised about.
Listen.
Red flag for them smoking crystal meth.
That's right.
Pipe
They were
while
red
doing
flag
an
for meth.
autopsy.
All right, 4 and 4.
Did we already get the vitreous?
Vitreous I didn't count. All right, we'll only give 1 for that, guys. So 5,
Yes.
5 red, 4 green.
Did green flags really pull it through?
No. We have 5 red, 4 green. Is there another green?
No, I don't think so. Because a red flag for him doing his fiance's autopsy.
Okay, so 6 red flags, 4 green flags is what I got.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's way more green flags than I thought I was going to get.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to give... Okay, so it's still going to lose, but I'm going to give an honorary green flag for them actually going to see autopsies.
Yeah, because
So,
I feel
I'll
like a
give
lot of
5
people
green
wouldn't
flags.
do that to prepare for a role.
Yeah. 5 green flags. On this movie, if you watched it, it's only an hour and a half, so it is like a fun watch.
My favorite type of movies are 90-minute movies.
I know, but this one to me, maybe it was because I was coming right off of watching Mission Impossible for the other for Cult Pop, which I loved, but was a very, very long movie, and I really, really liked it. And I was like, okay, now I gotta watch this other movie. It'll be really quick. This one felt like it was dragging for me a little bit because I was like,
In the middle, it did.
yeah. Like, oh, they murdered another one. Just kidding.
But you guys can find us on Instagram, TikTok, over on Young Junk's YouTube page. We're everywhere.
Yeah. And you can find Nova in the background over there. And you can also find her at It's Nova the Cork on Instagram.
Yeah.
All right. So that was it for this episode. Thank you for joining us inside the morgue. And we will see you next time for a brand new dissection.
Bye.
Bye.
Young Junk!